Comics.fm on the air. Ryan Wild is here with me. Ryan, hi.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
You know what I love about your setup, Ryan?
What's
so not
that?
only are you a professional voiceover artist, so you've got this sound booth, but you've got a black background, you have a black shirt on. So you're kind of like John B. from Pee-wee's Playhouse a little bit right now.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do. Like, hey, Pee-wee.
Yeah. John B., do I get 3 wishes? You know, Mecca hi.
Or like you do the Conan O'Brien with the mouth thing, too,
Oh, yeah,
for a
yeah.
while. Hey,
In the
hey,
year
JP.
3000. I love it. So, Ryan, thanks for jumping on Comics.fm. We're going to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, brand new series, a new reboot from Jason Aaron. It's great. I mentioned on a couple of social media posts about collecting these and getting into them. So now we're going to kind of get into it with Ryan. As from a radio standpoint, Ryan, I mean, you've been all over. You've been all around this world, and you've done it all.
World traveler.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
of the Midwest, if you will.
So
yeah.
I met you in Crystal Lake, and you were the program director, operations manager of Star 105.5, and at the time Y1039. Before that, you were doing radio in Iowa, correct?
Yes, I started in the Quad Cities, which was like that river towns.
Yeah, so that's like Moline, Davenport. Let's see if I get them all.
You know, I'm blushing.
Hold on. Is Rock Island one of them?
Rock Island is one of them. Now, there is the 5th city where I went to high school. That was East Moline. And that one is technically they're not acknowledged, right? Because, it's East Moline. But there technically is 5 cities in the Quad Cities,
so
technically.
The Quinn? What's not Quad?
Well, it's Quad Cities. And so what they did is they just decided they didn't want to... They didn't want to acknowledge East Moline, apparently. But that's where I went to high school. And that might be one of the reasons why they do not acknowledge said East Moline.
Oh, I was going to go the other way. I was going to say it gave you your drive and determination to succeed because you never felt acknowledged.
Yeah, so, that's accurate. That's accurate.
We can unpack that. Roman Reigns acknowledge me,
$60 an hour. We'll unpack that.
That's right. You've been on air forever, but also a manager, program director. I mean, almost the entire time of your radio career, you've been sort of like the boss, right?
For the most part. I mean, I think I was probably only working like full time for 3 to 4 months before I actually got my first programming gig. And it was like, hey, you're going to program this station. We're flipping down the hall. And by the way, enjoy. And then, like I said, we did that for a while, but it all started on air, doing overnights, weekends and all that stuff. And then eventually kind of moved into, other stuff. So your start was a lot like other people where, you start off on whatever they give you overnights and all that. I just think your acceleration to the top was quicker. It was like kind of like Howard Stern, like, all right, you're program director now. Go fire that guy. Hey, manager. Like me.
Right. Station manager. I'm Moti, station manager.
Station manager. I even wore the jumpsuit and everything, dude. I was like walking around. I'm like, oh yeah, I need you to fire him today.
Yeah.
But no, it was kind of crazy. Like, cause I remember I was working like weekend overnights on like a country station in town, WLLR. Shout out to Jim O'Hara, Dave Baker.
He's watching right now. Both of them. Yeah.
I'm sure they will. And sorry if this gets fuzzy. I move around. I'm animated and it's dark in here.
That's okay. That's a John B trait right there. I like it.
Floating head. But no, it was just kind of a crazy run. And so and then next thing you know, you're like, I go over to across the street, and then I'm like within, probably 6 months of working there, I'm a program director.
Wow.
And then, and they're like, oh, you're going to do mornings too. It's like, dude, I can barely put 2 sentences together on the air right now. And so nowadays
in radio in 2025, they got one person doing 20 jobs. And back in the day, there was more people. You were kind of a pioneer in that. Let's pile everything on this guy and see if he can power through.
You know what? I consider myself the forefather of that, one on-air talent for 50 markets. Because at one point in time when I was working at the stations across the street, I was on the morning show on the country station that they had me programming. Okay. Then they had me doing middays in a top 40 station, voice tracking that. Then they had me doing afternoons on a hot AC. And then they had me doing afternoons on another country station that was in Blacksburg, Virginia.
Wow.
And so what ended up happening was I was doing all of that stuff and some. And so it was just, and programming. And so it was a lot. It was a lot going on at the time. And, but like I said, at the end of the day, it helped me move to the next level. I ended up in Des Moines. because I had to get the hell out of there when I got to the point where it's like I got to move on, and so I
Well,
went to
you
Des
move
Moines
on, and you were doing everything, and it was almost like, your boot camp. You made it through. You could do it all at that point. And so, yeah, I mean, a big thing, people watching, a lot of times when there's room to grow, like in most companies, standard offices, you want to climb you're drinking whiskey there? You're gonna climb the corporate ladder. In the radio world, not so much. It's more like, well, I want to move to a bigger market because you want to make more of an impact and reach more people. And that's what you did, because now Des Moines is several rungs up on the ladder from Quad Cities at that point.
Yeah, no, Des Moines, I loved my time in Des Moines. Like, I love that market. I love the people. My daughter was born there. For me, I'm a Hawkeye fan, true and true. Yeah. So it was great, to kind of be in that market, in that place, and just kind of, really enjoy. Met Tony Tarbox there, who was one of my favorite people I ever worked with in my career.
You always talk. Is he the one that had the bag sticker phrase that you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bag sticker. I mean, the guy would talk. He would read the casual encounters section on Craigslist on like Fridays and be like, "Ooh, that sounds interesting."
That's great.
And then he had a character for a while, and actually it wasn't a character. It was literally Laura. It was Laura was her name. She was Laura the lesbian, and she would call in with her exploits every Friday. So it was just it's like just like Tony is just. And it was just like the guy just made it sound, I feel dirty and I need to shower, but I'm really dialed into this because I'm hanging on every word, every dribble that's coming off his lips.
And you got to see sort of like, all right, radio can be really, really fun. You can push the boundaries, have some fun. And that was something that you didn't always have the opportunity to have before that, right?
No, and the thing is, like, I think that was one of the things that I think as I got further along in my career and I got into some of the bigger markets that I think was misunderstood about me was, and it was that I still believed a lot in not watering down content if we could. You know what I mean? It's like, if we're going to go, like, as stupid as it's going to be, let's be as stupid as we can be. Because at the end of the day, like, if you start taking yourself too seriously, what ends up happening is, like, it just sounds pretentious and it doesn't come off real and doesn't come off legit. And so, like, I got to a point where I was just like, you know what? Let's just go full bore. Like, and sometimes it was that small town heart in a big market. And, and I credit my upbringing, a small town, Kelowna, Illinois. Shout out. You don't get many shout outs, but hello, Kelowna.
You're looking up like it's like the town's no longer with us.
I was thinking about, well, times I wonder. But no. There was a time when there was
that's
this.
Right.
Well,
my planet was destroyed. Yeah.
Just to irritate the folks down there, the Green Rock isn't there anymore because Kelowna overtook it. We marched over the road and took it.
What is Green Rock?
So Green Rock. So I grew up. So like there was. It's like it was a small town, had like 2 gas stations and a Dairy Queen you could cross. There was this main drag that kind of went down between the two, and so you cross over into Green Rock, and there's a whole other city, whole other municipality, whole other police department.
Wow. Okay.
And it's like 2 small towns next to each other. And it's like, I always said that Green Rock was where you go over to chew the water because it was not a good water system.
Right. Yeah. Understandable. Yeah.
And it explained a lot of the folks coming from there. No offense to some of my dear friends from Green Rock. You didn't drink enough water because you ended up fairly normal.
Right. Some of my best friends are Green Rockians,
So there you go. Exactly. Yeah. It's just one of those things that I think it all came down to, like, it was that small town heart kind of falling into a bigger market. And I think that I felt like as I got later in my career, beyond working with you, as I got later in my career, I felt like I had to start explaining myself. Like, guys, like, this is stuff that this is not reinventing the wheel. This is just why radio exists, and this is why we do what we do. And we, and so I think that sometimes I got labeled somewhat rebellious or, as far as that goes, as I got later in my career and kind of I felt like you get to a point where like, as you get further along, you get into your 40s, you're like, I'm tired of explaining myself. Yeah. Like this, when it's time to go do the things that are right, you just go do them. Now, obviously not saying that everybody, that I've worked with has been, not accepting it. Just sometimes you get those people that kind of kick back like, why would you do that? Well, because it makes sense.
Well, especially when you're on the right side. It's like being on the right side of history. Like you're trying to say, this will connect with people. This is entertaining. This is why we do this. And I was like, yeah, but they said we got to follow these. And you're like, guys, so I'm the rebel now because I'm trying to do the right thing, which is crazy. And that would drive you nuts.
Well, it's like at the end of the day, it's like, do we want to have fun? Do we want our listeners to have fun? And like, those are the things that you got to, you start trying to answer with yourself. You're just like, and so I found, that sometimes it was just explaining myself just got somewhat fatiguing in some cases. Yeah. And sometimes it was just about the clothes I wore. I mean, it was just crazy. It's like, dude, I didn't, it's interesting times right now. And look, anybody that's working in radio right now, I freaking love you guys. And I am 100% behind you and everything you're doing. It is not an easy time to be in radio right now. And the biggest thing that I tell anybody who ever asks me right now, like if you're in radio right now, what's the number one advice you could give somebody right now? And I always say that is never bow down and change yourself from who you are, because it's who you are that makes you interesting.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, so they jive on when they listen to the shows and when they listen to the stations, they jive on the human being that's on the air. So do whatever it takes to never lose yourself and your identity as far as what it is that makes you unique and awesome when it comes to being on the air, because those are the things that really, truly matter. Those are the intangibles.
Yeah.
And never let someone take that away from you.
And that's how you got the job in the first place. Usually, yes. you think, the person, we're called on-air personalities. Let's take away the personality from the person.
Yeah, I'm moving my camera, by the way. It makes life a little easier for me. So there we go.
There you go. Yeah.
And they should probably hear me better, too, because now I'm up on the mic.
You're on the mic. This is After Hours with Ryan
Yes,
Wild.
this is After.
And by the way,
time to get dirty talk.
Ryan Wild is your real name. It's not a radio name.
Yes. So you want to know the funny backstory that people always laugh about, right? So Wild's my real last name. I come from a family of chiropractors. So
your dad was you said I remember this, the originator of the Cox technique. Was that the
Cox?
No, wasn't it called Cox?
I was.
Oh, you?
I'm the originator of the Cox technique.
Oh, the Coxman?
Yeah, ask my wife. I'm kidding. Anyway, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No, I remember you told me a story about your dad and the.
No. So my dad. So, long story short, like my dad uses a technique called Gonstad, which Dr. Cox was the chiropractor that I went to.
I had Cox on the brain.
Yeah, I bet you did. But that's like old times right now.
That's right.
But no, it's my dad was like a small town chiropractor. My grandpa was. My great grandpa was and so like I would have been the fourth generation that would have probably gone into it. Like my great grandpa, now not my blood great grandpa, but the great grandpa I always knew, which he was a chiropractor, and so would have been the fourth generation to go into chiropractic. Wow. But they all wanted to be broadcasters.
Wow.
So I ended up being the one that like, I'll just do it. I don't like money.
Yeah. So, right. Instead of fixing people's backs, I'm going to break my own back carrying everybody.
Yes. I'm just going to go ahead and lose on you guys are out here making on this. I'm just going to go ahead and lose.
But isn't that funny? I was talking with, I think might have been the last episode with Chris Austin, but we were saying how listeners, even the ones that are so successful, the ones that are doctors, whatever, they still think we have the coolest job in the world. Wow, you get to go to all these concerts, you get to go backstage, and you're just like, I don't know where my next meal's coming from sometimes.
So like my wife, like we were having a conversation. It was probably about like, I don't know, maybe it's like a year and a half ago. And she was just kind of talking about like things that I miss from not being in radio every day, right? And it's like, dude, I miss the on-air part of it like 100%. Like I miss that part of it, like getting ready to go on the air. I love that part. Like I got so nervous. And like a lot of people don't know about me is two things. One, I grew up with a stutter. I had a little bit of a stutter and a speech.
I never knew that.
Growing up.
Couldn't even tell.
So I had to go to speech therapy classes. Actually, I had a speech therapist who called me stupid because I couldn't say toothpaste right.
Oh, wow.
And it was crazy. But like, so I grew up and I was very self-conscious about that, but I always wanted to be on the radio, right? Like God put me on this earth, I think, to entertain and just kind of give people an escape from their day to like go, live life and have something fun in the background. We're wallpaper at the end of the day. Yeah. But like, are we the crazy wallpaper that they're kind of like, this is kind of fun?
Right. Yeah.
Or are we like the boring wallpaper where they fall asleep? I would rather be the crazy wallpaper. But in saying all that, like I never showed it a lot, but like I was extremely anxious every time I cracked the microphone. I was extremely anxious to go on stage to do
announcements,
concert announcements. Like I never said this out loud because whatever would have happened, like, oh, I can't have Ryan do shit. I'm sorry, I don't know if you can cuss in this.
No, you can't. It's all good. Okay. Yeah.
All right, but you can't have Ryan do this, and so it's one of those things where I. It took so much energy out of me to go do a stage announcement. like because it was just so anxious and like anxiety driven for me. And my wife's like, I never knew, I could never tell. I'm like, well, I go, you get to a point where it's like in your head, you kind of learn what what that autopilot and that overdrive kind of looks like. And I think I did a good job of just kind of finding that autopilot and just kind of working with it within myself. But it every time I cracked the mic, I was nervous. Like my heart would be pounding like out of my chest every single time.
So let me ask you, because I would encounter some of the same kind of things, especially with like announcements on stage, that kind of thing. Once you are doing it, does it go away? Do you feel like that was no big deal, or is it hard to get power through?
If anyone ever took a close look at me when I walked off of the stage, or anytime, like if you ever took a close look at my hands, you would have seen it. You would have noticed it because my hands would just be kind of like a little bit like this.
Wow. Okay.
If you never noticed, like you probably know. Actually, you made a comment one time when I was on the air because I used to like I tap the desk a little bit with my hand a little bit when I was talking, and so like for me that was.
So I don't mean to point that out. Sorry about that. I don't remember.
No. Thanks a lot. But no, he's like, so you tap your hand a lot while you're doing that. Like it's a rhythm thing for me, only for the fact that it keeps me from, it kept me from kind of like showing that I was like shaking and visibly nervous, but it was also an antsiness too. But I can't do it when I'm doing voiceover work because things need to be quiet.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I just slap myself in the face a few times and then come in the studio and say, let's do this.
But I think a lot of people go through this kind of stuff and they just either mask it or they get through it. I mean, there were times where it's just like, oh man, I got to just power through. Because what I would tell myself is once I get rolling in whatever I'm doing, I'm going to be fine. It's just getting to that moment, whether it was a remote or an onstage thing or, and I mean, voice tracking obviously is easier because you are doing, you're not live. However, there's an adrenaline rush that happens when you're live that you get from voice tracking. And I would say that being live for me was the easiest of all of the radio things because it was me in a box. Right. We're in a room. We're by ourselves almost always. I mean, I would say when there's guests, I would get nervous because I'm like, everyone's watching me, or if someone's doing camera, that started to happen later on in our careers, but I was not big on stage announcements either at all. I mean, I will say I said yes to doing them because I felt that if I said no, I'm now not the guy anymore. And now I'm not I'm going to get less remotes because, JP can't, introduce this band or whatever. There were times where like, well, maybe I'll meet somebody backstage and might have a cool interaction because you can't replicate those moments. Those are those moments that we get to do. Other people can't always do. But even though it's probably killing you inside, especially the moments leading up to the thing before.
Dude, like the thing is, like, I think, and that's the thing that people don't necessarily understand sometimes too. Cause like, it's like, oh, your job's so cool. And it's like, dude, there's so much anxiety and that it's such a high anxiety job. That's why, like, you see so many, like back in the day, like it was more common for me to like go outside and see like 50 people smoking outside a radio station than it was, as things got shut down, they're like, oh, no, I'm going to vape. But like
something else.
But it was, like it is a high anxiety job and it's not for everybody. And that's fine because everybody's built for certain talents. And, like I always say, I have a body for desk work because I do. I definitely have a body for desk work.
I think most of us do. Yeah.
This guy can't carry things. I'm fragile. I got these beautiful nails. That's right. But like it's one of those jobs that just you do it because you love it, because the money doesn't, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to be, you're not going to be the guy that's going to be like making that bajillion dollars a year, syndicated on 50 million radio stations.
There's only a handful of those people out there that even exist.
So you're doing it mostly for the love of the fact that you're getting to burn off something every day. I talk about this, not to go into the mental health road, but mental health, obviously, as you know, is a big thing to me. And it became more prevalent to me, towards the end of my run in Chicago, when I was dealing with a lot of things that kind of actually took me down a very dark path. Not to kind of veer into like
it's part of the industry talk though, frankly.
So there was a time in my 30s where it had gotten so bad, and part of this was because I'd spent so much of my life with depression and anxiety and thinking that it was just, these feelings are normal. Because we didn't talk about those things, when we were kids, the way they talk about it now. And thank God they do.
Especially guys too,
Dude. And it's like, I was at a point where it got so bad that I'd actually made plans to to kill myself. I'd actually gotten within a few hours of doing it. A lot of people don't know this story in its full detail. And eventually at some point in time, I will share it with everybody. I kind of live out my social media with my journey with mental health and just trying to keep people going and moving because right now it is such a hard time with mental health, but like in radio especially, like I wasn't getting the help I needed. I wasn't paying attention to those things. And I think a lot of times too, when you're in that space of radio and you're so busy and you're so going, I think that a lot of times what ends up happening is we forget to pump the brakes every once in a while and just ask somebody, are you okay?
Yeah.
Because, I can tell you there's a lot of people that, I wish maybe I would have asked if they were okay.
Same here. Yeah. And like sincerely, not just someone's a little odd or the boss says, hey, can you check on so-and-so? Like a sincere something bigger than the job,
Yeah, because that's, and like when people will tell you like, especially, when I was in Milwaukee, when I was here in Indianapolis, that was a really big thing for me. It was just I would tell people like, dude, just if you need to go home, just go home. It's fine. If you need to take a day, I'm not going to tell anybody. Just go take a personal day. I'm not going to count it against anything. This is something that you need and you should do for you. And I had learned a lot, in that time, in my 30s about myself and how I ticked, and it wasn't that like, the job was killing me. It was, I had so many other things going on in my head that I'd left untreated for years. And I think a lot of people that are in the entertainment industry, you look at guys like Robin Williams, you look at folks like that, they're tortured artists. You know what I mean? Like we're out here, we're trying to burn off something every day. And that's something I always talk to my therapist about. It's like the one thing I miss about radio is that burning off of the on-air part, right? When you're on the air and you're burning that part off. And so for me, like I miss that part. Like that burning it off. So like voiceover kind of has helped with that a little bit, but there's that part of that creativity that goes into it, that working with a group of people and really hashing out an idea and creating ownership and all that cool stuff as you're building something really fun. I miss that part of it. I don't necessarily miss the business side and the politics side of it all. Like I don't miss that part of it. And like, honestly, like if there's somebody looking out there, hey, I haven't heard from Wild in a while. Maybe he's, look, I call myself semi-retired from radio for a reason. One, I wouldn't necessarily say the door's closed on me in this business. I wouldn't necessarily say that. But what I would say is I'm a different person now than I was even back in 21 when this kind of came to an end with COVID and everything else. And so for me to get back in, it would have to be the right kind of situation. Yeah. But also the other side of it too is, I'm better for the time I've had out of it. Yeah. Because I've been able to get stuff right with myself. I've been able to spend time really focusing on my mental health, really spending time in therapy, really working with a really good therapist here in Indianapolis named Stacy, and she's absolutely phenomenal. And, you always need somebody who's not in your inner circle to call you out on your shit. Yeah.
Otherwise people have their own, whether they're doing it just to be nice or they have other ulterior motives. It's somebody that you can't always, not that you don't trust them in your circle, but you'd like to have an unbiased person.
Yeah. And that's the whole point. Like, I think, and I had therapists when I was in Chicago, like one lady had me journal and like, the bane of my existence is journaling. Like I didn't have a diary growing up. Right. I had no desire to have it. Dear diary, I felt like crap today.
Here are the boys that are cute, diary.
Yeah. I wrote the same line. But anyway, no, it's just like, but it was just one of those things like, and she would read it and she would cry in my sessions, but then never offer anything. So it's just like, always remember, like if you're at that point, if anybody watching this right now, you're ever at that point where you're just feeling like the world is just kind of caving in on you right now, and you're waking up, and I always call it the backpack of depression and the backpack of anxiety. It's like you go to bed and it's like a weighted blanket that's way too heavy on you, and then you have to get up in the morning and then you got to grab it and put it on. And then you got to carry it around with you every day. Like if you're feeling that every single day, get the help you need, because it doesn't get better until my family was very religious growing up, and they were always like, pray for it and all those things. And that's, have your friends pray for you, all those things. But the other side of it is, we live in a world where I think if you want to get better, you have to take the 90%.
Yeah.
And then I think the 10% that's the blessing that comes back to you. And so you got
to own it. You got to own it too.
You got to come 90, man. You got to come 90 because the 10%'s where everything that the healing, the blessings, all those things that you need to get better come from. But you got to take that 90 and just, like I said, if you're working in radio right now, you're watching this right now and you're feeling kind of, in a place where I was, and I was a very high functioning depression, anxiety person. And so you never knew it because I shielded people through humor and jokes and comedy.
Yeah. That's what we all do. That's what we all do. The defense mechanism. That's Robin Williams, right? I mean, this is the defense mechanism of being funny, putting the right exterior out there, don't let anyone inside the shell. No. And, you mentioned about semi-retired and that kind of thing to be the right fit. The problem right now is it's not the same fit as it was. So
no, it's not.
Even if you were a square peg and now you're circle, whatever it is, whatever you are now and you've evolved to, the world isn't even the same because now it's less and less about all the fun stuff and more about what can we squeeze and out of. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen the worst of it, and when you see people whether I don't want too much on the sort of corporate side of executives making so much, and then even down to like just salespeople. But then it's like, what?
Yeah.
I can't afford $500 to pay this guy. Like the heart and soul of the station, who's the voice of the station, everyone loves. You can't afford $500 for him, but they're all making boom, boom, boom. Something is effed up here completely.
Well, yeah, and you look at it from like there's that 5,500 foot and 50 foot view. It's like my phone has rung still consistently in this entire time that I've been out of work. It still continues to ring. Like I said, oh, you want to get back in? Well, what? First off, before we even get any further, what are you going to pay? Like I'm not doing minimum wage anymore. Yeah. Like I just, and the thing is like the jobs that were paying decent back, 5, 6, 7 years ago are paying probably maybe 30% less than that or
if
more.
If they exist too
at all. Yeah. And so it's an industry that has shrunk, but also in saying that the pay has shrunk with it. And, and so what ends up happening is everyone has to work harder and harder and harder. But what ends up happening when you're working harder and harder and harder and you're trying to, make sure that you don't lose your job, you end up looking over your shoulder all the time. And then all these insecurities come up. And then that's when things derail in ways that you don't want them to derail. And that's where I come back to saying your mental health in all of this in your career, your mental health is the number one most important thing. And if you are not managing that, then it doesn't matter what job you have. But the thing is, especially in radio, you're never going to be good on the air and you're never going to be good with your coworkers, your employees, your friends, your family. If this isn't working, this can be great and be full of, all this like love and all that stuff. But if this isn't working, this just kind of gets canceled out. Yeah. And so you just have to make sure that you're, as you're driving through it right now, like I said, any of the radio folks watching this, if you need to get that mental health treatment that you need, get it done. Like go find yourself a good therapist, talk about it. The thing is, the nice thing about a therapist is it's better than going into most program directors because they won't go talk to their buddies and then everybody knows your shit.
Well, and never forget that. I mean, there's a lot of people in radio that are not trustworthy. They are not nice people. They are just weird. They operate out of fear of their own jobs. So there's a lot of, there's only a handful of people. I mean, you're one of the, I don't want to say anything bad about other people, but from who could I trust? Who is real, who is legit. Like you're on everyone's list for that, and that's something that a lot of people don't know. They might have a boss or a coworker, but they're not at that level of like, I don't know if I could tell them anything. And you are that kind of person. And as you've evolved, there are times when it's probably what you could have probably had opportunities if you wanted them, but you're not realizing, not a good fit. You're asking about pay. A lot of people are too scared to ask about pay. Because they're like, I don't want this. Like, well, isn't that important? Don't you have to make a living if you're a family or whatever, or if you're moving? That's hugely important stuff.
I took a job a few years back I'm not going to say the market because I don't want to upset the market because I have some great friends and family.
We'll call
there in
it
those
Green
markets.
Rock. We'll call it Green Rock.
It took a job in Green Rock, and the water was chewy. But no, I took a job where I had all these things promised. And, I think back then there wasn't as much. There was some paper. They had paper documentation, but maybe not as much as they do now, where they really try to I just don't want to get sued today, but there was all these things that were kind of like, okay, this is going to be going on above and beyond that you'll get, you're going to get compensated for.
Yep.
I never saw any of that money. Never did. Never saw any of that money. Like I was supposed to get a raise within 90 days to a certain amount. And then they kicked in him.
Ryan, sorry, it's just not there. I don't know what to tell you.
It's not in the budget. It's not in the budget.
It's not in the budget. Sales is down. Things are down right now. Those are the things. And when someone says, you're going to double your income with remotes, that's actually impossible.
It's not. Look, unless you're charging unless the talent fees $1,000 an hour, then you might make those type of things. But until then, like I said, just at the end of the day, if you're in radio right now, just always make sure you're looking out for yourself. It's okay to do that. It's okay to say, I'm looking out for me right now in that particular regard. What's best for you? What's best for your mental health? What's best for, first off, if you got a family, are you going to uproot your family for this job? Are you going to uproot your family? Make sure that the juice is worth the squeeze, because at the end of the day, it may or may not be worth the squeeze after the first 5 weeks.
Would you say it almost has to feel too good to be true to do that? Because there's a feeling of, oh my God, this is so perfect, but it almost has to feel that way to make that kind of sacrifice.
Well, I think in radio too, I think we get so excited to do what it is that we do, right? We get so excited to just go out and just be on the air and go out and have all this fun. We're like, ooh, I get to do it in front of a different market. And they have all these cool things in this market. But the thing is, and I'll tell you this too, if you think the grass is greener from one market to the other, let me tell you something. It doesn't change. There's the same characters in every freaking building.
It's the same story and characters and the good guys and bad guys.
And there's some people are more amped up and can be far more evil and worse in some markets than they are in other markets. And then there's these amazing, beautiful people that you'll meet in some of these markets too that are just people that become friends for life, and they're just familiar voices and people that you still talk to and that you still love. And there's we were talking about this a couple weeks back with my wife, Sandy. We were saying it's I loved this market, but I love the people from this market. Right. And if I could have those people in this market, we would have had a nice perfect spot. But the beautiful thing about life is it's imperfect, and we are perfectly imperfect. And so it's one of those things that sometimes you thrive in the imperfections. Yeah. But it's but you also have to accept those imperfections too, so you can thrive in them.
It's how you navigate and how you kind of react to those situations. And it's tough. It's tough to take a step back and realize that, I just got to find the best scenario for me, and it's not going to be perfect,
Yeah. And that, for me, when I'd been doing radio since I started doing radio when I was 16 years old. I was calling basketball and football games in the Quad Cities for one of the local AM stations. So I was calling the high school games and things like that. And then I went into TV for a few years. I worked for CBS for a while as a photojournalist, and then I worked for Fox as a photojournalist. But it was one of those things that it was Fox in the early age where they educated you on what's the number one thing that makes people come back and watch your stuff? Fear. So create fear. And and that was back in 2000 2000. So that was 2000. Okay. So we're talking about that back then. But it was, as you start to kind of move through things in your career, you start to kind of pick up on different things that, you love and you don't love. And, for TV, I was like, dude, after a while, I think had I not worked for Fox, I might have still tried TV for a while. But then when I went to Fox, I'm like,
they ruined you. Yeah. Well, and there's also
I need a shower. You can have a shower in the building. I just feel dirty all day, and
But there's a level of I think radio always gives the ownership. It's you. You are the character. You are the personality. It's your baby the entire time. Whereas TV is so many moving parts that I think. You almost have to have a little bit of control freak in you to say, you know what, I want my own show, I want my station, I want whatever it is, and you can do that in radio. That's why it's a wonderful thing. The one thing I want to touch on is when you and I were working together, we had the opportunity to flip a station. You got to change a station from one format to another one. A lot of people don't get to do that. And that was a cool experience that people don't always have, because at that point, you got to create something from scratch. Like usually you take over from the last guy or girl and you go like, I want to make it better than this person. I want to do better. Is it hard not having a bar? Because at that point there was really, it's brand new. If you succeed, is it flash in the pan? If it sucks, it's like, well, we got time. I mean, there's no real bar there. I always thought that would be a challenge to kind of manage that.
Well, in my career, I was fortunate enough to do it, I think 4 times.
You had 4 station launches. Oh my God, that's really rare.
So I've done 4 in my career, and I think that they were all different in unique kind of ways. But I think when you go into those situations, the number one thing you're really trying to ask yourself is not what's in it for the company. It's what's in it for the listener, and how is this going to benefit the listener? And in return, those floodgates open for us, right? Yeah. It's like they're going to love this station. In return, we're going to be able to do these things that we really want to do, and to do some really cool, unique things, and bring something to the dial that no one else is doing, or something different, right? I mean. Yeah. And so, like when we did the Fox, that was still my favorite station flip, because I loved the characters that we had involved. I mean, we had Jack Taddeo, he's like the professor, if you will, of radio, and
that's right, yeah.
and who I'm fortunate to call a dear friend and somebody I can talk to about just about anything. And we've had so many great talks, even just since we both kind of exited our share of
and Jack's been on this show, and he is that guy that you can bounce any idea. One thing I always told Jack, and I told him on the show, was you always give people enough rope. Either they can hang themselves with it, or they can scale a mountain with it. But that's the choice is theirs.
I think in my career, sometimes I gave people too much rope. But the thing is, I think part of it's my problem that I, I'm an empath deep down. Like, and that's another thing about it too, is like when someone's sad, like I just pick up on that energy, and then it goes down to a cellular level with me. Like I start feeling it. And so like I start feeling that need to kind of like, okay, what can I potentially be doing better to maybe get more out of this person? And so sometimes, I probably have given people way too much rope in certain cases. I can think of a few situations like that, but at the end of the day too, those same people that maybe we were having, these crazy problems with, like later on in my career, like, or even after I've been done, like I've had conversations with them like, dude, you know what, like I was a dick, or it's like, and look, maybe I could have helped you more in that particular case. And they'll respond like, well, yeah, but I was a dick, but at the end of the day, like, I think, for me, I just try to believe in the fact that you can, try to get the best out of people if you just keep trying, and not like, I know, like I think a lot of us in radio have the same fear of people just kind of giving up on you, and I think that's why you end up sometimes taking things that you don't want to take necessarily, like concert announcements or things like that, because you don't want them to give up on you in that particular case. Yeah. And so, for, in this particular world that we live in now, more than ever, it's just like, be good to each other, and be good, obviously be good to your bosses, and then be good to the people that work below you. Now, if your boss is a dick, that's another question. At that point, egg his car by all means. Right. But, and like,
I'm sorry about the eggs on your car. No, I'm kidding. But Ryan,
I'm not glad I found out it was you.
That's right.
Now,
but dick. Ryan, something you've always done is you've made it a point to say you want people to be happy, you want people to be successful, and not everybody they say those things, but you actually mean it. And I know that because you've given people opportunities. You gave me my first afternoon slot. I never had that before, and to give people opportunities. One, you usually maybe have had someone do that for you in the past, right? Because then it's like, okay,
100%.
But also you realize like, I can't operate out of fear. I can't operate out of a scared place. I can't feel like, well, if I do this, I'm not going to get this. It's not a good place. So even though you may have struggled with some things over the years, you made right decisions, I guess, if that makes sense.
And that was the thing too. Like I still to this day, like there's things that like, like I'm like, I could have probably done that a little bit better. Right. But then there's things where you're like, you know what, thank God, I was like, at least thinking like there was still that little bit of me in there where I was still being able to kind of like believe and make sure that I was making those right decisions. Like, like for you, it was a no brainer. Like I said, you'd put all this effort in for, helping us start the station. You knew the station because you were a part of that process. And so you knew what we were going to do. So like,
yeah, but you didn't have to though. You didn't have to, you didn't have
well,
to.
there was pressure. There was pressure from the left and the right. It was a concentric decision. It was very centered. It was a beautiful decision, very beautiful. It was big. It was wonderful. It was the best decision.
So are you running for mayor right now? I see a lot of political speech in that.
But no, it's just for me. Like you look at certain people, and it's like you reward the effort too. Like if someone's out there busting their ass, and they're out there trying to just be the best they possibly can be, and do the best they can for the station, but also they're just, they got a hunger to them. You give them a shot. You give them a shot because at the end of the day, we all had to do that.
And if more people did, it would be in a better place. I mean, there still would be the corporate issues with trying to squeeze the most out of nothing, but you did give people opportunities. And, you brought up a point about doing things for the listener, which in turn opens doors for yourself. I mean, you put the Garage, a local band show. Most people would say, that sounds like a lot of work. Do we have to? No one's telling me. The boss didn't say, did Jack tell you to do that? No, he probably said, are you sure you want to do this? It's going to be a lot of work. You're like, yes, I want to do this because this would be amazing. And it was amazing. And those things live on. People, you almost have to have that moment of, if other people take a lazy approach or kind of a half-ass, you need someone like you to say, this is going to be more fun. Trust me, it will. And you almost at times have to drag them along in the process, but then they finally see it.
You get people that like to kick, like I learned later in my career too. It was there's a difference, but like there's always naysayers in every promotions meeting you're having at a radio station.
Sure.
So, that's not going to work. That's a shit idea.
Hey, easy to, shoot those things down. So, it's easy to do that.
What I learned, and it was kind of a very valuable exercise, was to have the naysayers not be in the meeting during the creative part.
Okay.
And then bring them in to shoot holes in it after that after it's been fleshed out.
Yeah. So in other words, it's gonna happen. So you're shooting holes through it. It's really kind of just.
I would say, guys, okay, May's coming up. We've got 5 different things that we need to come up with for May, June, and July. Yeah. Let's come up with 5 ideas. Let's walk away with 3. That we're actually going to use or whatever. And let's come up with like 5 good ideas. And then, so we come up with those 5 good ideas. Then we bring the naysayers in.
Yeah.
And then let them tear it apart. And then we end up saying like, well, those 2 just aren't going to work, but these 3 are going to work. And actually, thank you for the naysayers because we're actually able to kind of figure out a few other things that we were kind of like, weren't thinking about when we were putting it together.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, it's, I learned to use them more effectively rather than spend 3 hours in a promo meeting trying to hash something out. We were spending maybe an hour with the creatives in there, like really kind of hashing these things out, and they were flying and flying and flying. And then you're spending like another maybe half hour with your naysayers, like that doesn't work, that doesn't work, that doesn't work. In today's world, like it's tough to have your own ideas to be able to use those and execute those. So for those of you that are out there in the creative world of the radio side of things, you're struggling because you just want to get these ideas across and get these things out and get these things moving and in front of people. Like just, remind yourself that you're doing the best you can in a world that maybe isn't necessarily as conducive to your style as maybe it used to be. I had to tell myself the same thing in probably my last, 5-6 years in radio, maybe 7, maybe a little bit longer than that. But anyway, you're doing the best you can. And so continue to do the best you can. And if that opportunity comes where you're able to kind of use that creative elbow or that creative, whatever it is that you've got in your system, that bone you got in your body, whatever it is, it'll come. But just know in the meantime, you're doing the best you can with what you have. And, you got to do it.
Yeah. But you got to do it for the love of the game, because a lot of times it's like, no one's going to tell you to do that stuff. You got to love it. And that's something that my time working with you always would do things that ultimately somebody would think, well, that would mean we either have to change something, which I don't like change, or work harder. I don't want to work harder. Or it's like, yeah, but isn't this why we got into it? And that's something that you don't see a lot. And I will say something too and I'm trying to kiss your ass anymore, but like, you know,
I know, like I was like, I'm gonna send you money. Chill out. You've been doing it monthly for like 5 years.
You already got a free comic and a sticker out of it.
I know. I don't need anything else. I'm good.
Paid you out. But I mean, it's something that a lot of times people don't feel that, you know, you got to be in management early on. And so the advantage, I think, of that, at least I think you've accepted that advantage, is you wanted to make sure you made everyone's path to success, you know, much easier, as opposed to, I'm up here, you're down here, you're going to do this here. You're like, no. I'm on the front lines too. And you're dragging people with in a good way. You're not out there like, I'm going to show up right before the event and just like say my thing and go. Like, no, you're setting up speakers and you're cutting things out and you're doing all the extra work. Oh, you're supposed to have them do that. Nah, I have to do that to make sure, you know, it's done right, you know?
Well, I think there's two things that I think people, you know, don't realize about me. One, because I got started so young in management, I hadn't had a chance to really learn. I was kind of, you know, as Jack used to tell me, you were raised by wolves. Yeah. I was a little bit, you know, and so like there's certain things about management that I could have been better at, and there always will be things in life. There's always things you can improve on, right? Because if you know, we're always working to get to be the best we can be, right? And so like there was things I wasn't great at, and things that I copped to the fact that I didn't necessarily do the greatest, but, you know, I tried and the heart was there for it, you know. And then two, I always managed with the style of never ask anybody to do something that you wouldn't do yourself.
Right.
And so, and that for me, knowing that, you know, my moral fiber, everything is at a high level, I'm not going to ask somebody to kind of sacrifice their morals or their conscience to do something that, you know, they think is off. And if they feel uncomfortable doing it, I'm not going to press you to do that. Right. You know, but at the same time, too, just know that, you know, I would always never ask anybody to do something that I wouldn't do myself. And I still was like that. Even when I got here in Indianapolis, like, why are you carrying by? Right. Because it's just the right thing to do. You guys are out here working your asses off. You know, I'm not going to stand here and look pretty. I mean, and God knows that was easy for me, you know, but it was. Yeah.
They don't see that from everybody, so they were questioning it, you know. And I will say that,
oh, God,
you know, you were always great with that. You would give interns nicknames, which I will say too, you know,
Ron.
And we're going to get to, so we're going to get to Ninja Turtles in a second, because we want to talk, but it's like you made it a point, whether it was Javid Lee Roth or Obi-Wan Kenobi or Crawl, and
Peaches.
it was like, right.
Peaches.
Yeah. Oh, Thunder Lips, you know, it's like, you've had these moments where it's just, I think that, I guess what I was trying to say earlier is that the distance between management and the earliest level, like the gap is like nothing with you. You know what I mean? Like you
be accessible. Always be accessible. Always. Like people need to see you around and see that you're out there doing stuff and that you're just, you know, I always look at it like the worst manager is the one that sits on top of the ladder.
Yeah.
And then asks you like, oh, like you're going to climb. And I know that this spot you can't do. Like this is like the really hard rung that you can't do. And you need me to do it, but I just need you to go ahead and do it. I'm a manager that would like to, you know, I'll come down off the ladder and let's come back up together. Right. Let's get to the top together. Like I never jived with management that kind of ruled like, I'm up here and you're down here.
A lot of stations, people, I mean, an intern would never be able to talk to the program director. That normally would never happen. Meanwhile, you're giving them nicknames, you're putting them in videos, you're showing Javid Lee Roth slide off of the hood like Dukes of Hazzard, and then you replay it like 5 times over again. And now that guy runs his own marketing agency, and he's like more successful than any of us.
Yeah, dude. And we knew that. We knew at some point in time we were going to have to try, like maybe we might be hitting him up for a job.
There's no doubt it's going to happen. We're going to reach out to. But I mean, you saw that in a lot. You saw that in a lot of people, and something that a lot of people don't see. So.
Well, you just you clear the gap. You know what I mean? Like, and then you just like, dude, you can. I mean, the interns could insult me for crying out loud. I didn't care about like messing with me and giving me a hard time or shooting me with Nerf guns. I didn't care. It's like at the end of the day, like
you have more Nerf bullets than them anyway. You're gonna get them back.
I mean, and just it's creating that environment that's conducive to wanting to come into work every day, wanting to be creative and wanting to collaborate. And it creates that camaraderie. So if I did some things wrong in my career by doing that in certain people's eyes, I'm not sorry.
No,
I'm not sorry at all. I'm not sorry.
You created an environment, you know, you always would deck out your office as like a cool, like hang. A lot of people don't do that. You always wanted to have that sort of like, this is my life. Welcome to it. Let's all just kind of have fun together. And
Dude, yeah.
I know a big part of that for you and I is always going like nostalgia and like 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
And that was why I wanted to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yay! Finally here. We're finally, Jesus, we're running long.
Well, this is I mean, it's the show. It's half radio, half whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But I want, because I know that, from 80s and 90s movies and TV shows and bands, I mean, that's something that runs through your blood. I would say your comedy, your sense of humor is always influenced by that stuff. And I'm thinking, what would be a good nostalgia thing to give Ryan? Because I try to put some thought. I don't just send random books to people. I'm like, all right, what would be good? I'm like, Ninja Turtle, we're about the same age. Ninja Turtles were a big deal when we were younger.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a good reboot of that. They're kind of coming together, but a little more adult-ish kind of themed, and that's a little more violent and kind of psychological. But I think back to like the Ninja Turtles movie, for example.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh,
a classic. I wanted to ask you, Ryan, since you are it's not a quiz, no wrong answers, but do you know, as a big fan of 80s movies, the voice of Leonardo in the Ninja Turtles movie, I think it was 1 and 2, who it is? I'll give you a hint. It's a character in an 80s movie that you and I love, especially you.
Is it? It's not just one of the guys. For just one of the guys.
It's not just one of the guys, no. A little more nerdy. A little more nerdy.
Let's see.
More
Real
nerdy.
Genius.
A little more nerdy.
Nerdier than Real Genius? Revenge of the Nerds?
Yeah. So,
hang on. So we're not thinking like Timothy Busfield or something.
It was not. It was. I believe you know the song very well. It's if you sing it while riding a tricycle while drinking. Takashi, was that his name?
Oh, Takashi.
Takashi is. He was the voice of Leonardo. I learned that today from IMDb. I was looking it up. I'm like, oh my God.
I had no idea. That's amazing.
Takashi's Leonardo. Corey Feldman is Donatello.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. Okay, that makes sense. That tracks.
But even though he's not really, Donatello does machines. I don't think Corey Feldman's really has the engineering vibe to him.
No, he doesn't. He definitely. He's not wielding a hammer by
no,
any
not
means.
at all, not at all. No. But I mean, I think back to like those kind of things that we grew up with, and it's such a huge part of us. So I'm thinking, you know what, Ninja Turtles has to be where it's at.
And it also kind of gives me that behind the music vibe. This particular set.
I think you said where are they now? Is that what you said, right?
Yeah. Fans reunited on VH1, but like, where are they now? Like, what have you been doing? Well, I've been doing some, lately since I got done doing the keyboards. Right. I've been running a computer software company.
Right. It's always something you would never
like, what the hell?
You would never think of, right?
You were the guy passed out on stage half the time, So
no, I created the internet. I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
The interwebs. Yes, they created them interwebs.
This new Ninja Turtle series, written by Jason Aaron, he's doing a great job. We covered his book, Bug Wars, on another episode. Great author. Did a series called Scalp that's really good. One thing I liked about this, issues 1, 2, 3, and 4, each one of them is a different Ninja Turtle and their background.
Yes.
So issue 1, Raphael, he's in prison, and he is basically... think about what would happen to a teenage mutant, well, not teenage anymore, but a mutant Ninja Turtle that's now in prison. He's not doing so well in there. He's different.
It's got like all the vibes. It's got some Shawshank to it.
Yeah.
A little bit of Shawshank to it, and it's got, it's got a little bit of Escape from Alcatraz in it too, some vibes to it. And look, at the end of the day, you knew, and especially like first page or two in, you were like, dude, Raphael's in prison. He's in the pokey right now.
Right, yeah.
Something tells me that this dude is going to be top bunk in his cell. Like, you're just going to give him top bunk because he's not, we're not fighting here. Okay.
Right. Well, especially when people may look at him and think like, oh, this guy's no problem. Like, well, you know what's going to happen? He's going to start kicking ass. And especially Raphael. He's the most badass of all of them. So that's going to happen.
And it's in prison, too. So prison fights, they happen. You know what I mean? But the problem is you drew Raphael, and that's just not a good place to be. And then you got a warden who's crooked.
That's right.
You got a city alderman or councilman that's also crooked, too.
Yeah.
So like, no matter what, like, he can't win, no matter what he's doing.
Well, eventually you're going to think, this is the first one, and you're thinking, okay, each one's going to be a different backstory, and they got to come together. And the Ninja Turtles are in New York. But of course, like you said, you can't have a crime-related story without crooked cops, crooked warden, crooked mayor. Yeah. And then who are the good ones? Who are the bad ones? So he's got obviously the, little bit of School of Hard Knocks there. And, great one to start with there. As you get to issue 2, different artist on there, you get to issue 2, and we have what a lot of people would call the party dude, Michelangelo.
Dude, it's like you knew exactly. Like I read that right away. I'm like, this is exactly what I had imagined Michelangelo doing right now. Of course, I thought he was more of a Seinfeld type than he would be.
Instead of like a Japanese action star, you thought more of a show about nothing.
Yeah, more of a show about nothing. Just kind of sitting around like,
What's the deal with pizza? I mean, you get pepperoni. If you get half pepperoni, you're paying the full price for full topping.
What's the deal with cell phones? I mean, like, it's just like one of those things that like it made total sense when you saw it.
What's the deal with nunchucks? You're always hitting yourself.
Yeah, 100%. You were just like, yep, that makes sense. That tracks.
So
Mike didn't wear his orange thing either.
I was actually about to say that. I was about to bring that up. So when we talk about different panels of the book, what's more terrifying than a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle without the headband on there? That's like, whoa.
The problem I had with it, as I was looking at him, like, did that guy draw me and just paint me green?
That's right. You got some similarities. I think could we put the green filter on? Hey, producer, can we give Ryan the green filter?
Yes, because you got a whole operation going on back there. Jesus,
that's right.
For crying out loud, you got all these people back there.
That's right. Give him the green. Give him the green rock filter. That's right.
Hey, crud, give him the green rock.
Crawl. So, side note, you gave an intern the nickname Crawl, and people were like, "Why is he Crawl?" And he's not crawling. In fact, he was probably our most stalwart, strong. Give him 3 crates. He was only nicknamed Crawl because we were talking about the movie Son-in-Law, where Pauly Shore's character was Crawl, and it's like, could we put any less thought into the nickname? You are not about you or the person. It's just that's a character that you walked in on to be discussed. Like
my wife and I like will sit here like a lot of times we're going back and forth like, listen to your crotch or hey crap.
Right, because in the movie,
the dad couldn't get his name right.
The dad couldn't get his name
Listen
right.
To your crotch.
Because I love that you had some nicknames that were just ingenious, and some were just like, I don't know, you're Crawl.
Oh yeah, dude. We had a guy when I was in Des Moines. Andy. His name was Andy, and we called him Andy Storm.
Okay.
To like make fun of really bad rock names.
Okay.
So we actually did an April Fool's joke where we fired Tony on the air, and and then we kept playing these imaging like things like you hear like a thunder go like, a storm front is coming. Andy Storm is coming to Channel Q. And then like he'd get on the air, and like the first thing he did was interview an artist. And we like teed the artist up and like just play along with it, like get offended.
Oh, did he think it was real or no?
He knew he was in on this whole thing.
Okay.
But he's interviewing an artist, like there's a local band, like Envy Core was the band that he was interviewing, and like they kind of had like a Coldplay vibe. So we were giving him like questions, like we were feeding him questions on the side, like to ask that we knew would be like just irritate him a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So we were like, okay.
Like, hey kid, you want this gig? You better ask the tough questions.
And we told him like talk annoyingly. So he's like, hey man, so we're with Brandon, Envy Corpse,
saying things wrong.
Yeah, and he's like, what is it about Coldplay that made you want to be them? So like
that's great.
But anyway, not to derail.
I love it though.
Yeah,
Andy Storm.
Yeah, we used him. We just threw him on the air. It's like just be on the air for a few minutes. Then we did a whole documentary for it.
And that's yet another thing. I will say another feather in your cap about basically giving people opportunity, but having fun. And
yeah, dude.
Michelangelo's having fun. One scene I really liked. He talks about he's making a lot of money, and he's like, "Oh, it's the best meal I ever had." It's like, no, it's not really the best meal I ever had. Best meal he ever had is probably sitting around with his bros having some pizza in the sewers,
And they always had that, like in each one of those, there's always that flashback kind of scene throughout each comic book where because I was wondering at first when I started reading, I'm like, are they going to kind of reference the other guys a little bit? Or is it just kind of like, this is us? And they did a good job of kind of tying those two parts together where you're kind of like, okay, so he's out on his own. He's away from his dudes. And so this is where things are at. So I thought that was kind of cool. So
especially when it's all right. All this stuff is sort of after the stories even if you've never read another Ninja Turtles comic ever, just knowing, the crew from the movies and the cartoon and the toys and all that. And now it's like, okay, well, clearly some stuff has happened. We get to the 3rd issue, different artist on there, different style. And you've got Leonardo, who's almost like on a mission of peace. He's like, I can't live this life anymore.
Totally.
Yeah. And he's like, walking this path, and he almost like a monk level philosophy of everything. And he wants to get out, but can he truly get out? It's like they say, once I get out, they always pull me back in, because at a certain point, he's going to have to start fighting again. it's gonna happen. You know.
Well, yeah, dude. I mean, you're a mutant, dude, and you know, no offense to the mutants out there.
That's right.
By all means, I'm not.
Some of my best friends are mutants. You know.
I consider myself one.
That's right.
But and maybe some people thought I was.
Unfortunately, no longer teenage. Many years.
No, I'm called Middle-Aged the Mutant. But Leonardo was my favorite. Was actually my favorite turtle growing up.
Yeah, so growing up.
I loved the swords.
The katana. It was always, you know, I would say my first Ninja Turtle toy was Leonardo. And then,
same here.
Yeah, over time, I got into Donatello because I thought the bow staff was really cool. I thought, like, you're fighting with the staff. That was kind of cool. And then as I got a little older in my like teenage years, and I started identifying more Raphael because it's like just a badass about everything. Meanwhile, everyone who knew me is like, oh, you're Michelangelo. You're the party dude. It's like, he was my least favorite actually growing up, you know?
He was kind of a douche. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Leo was like, you know, he's wise. He was maybe took himself a little too seriously.
Yeah, he was the leader, the oldest, I believe, as well, probably by minutes, you know. And,
he would have been a little bit more of a little bit more overbearing program director, but he would have, you know, at the end of the day, he still was, you know, he was the dude, right? Yeah. But like you look at, you know, Michelangelo, I'm like, this guy's kind of a douchebag. Yeah. I'm not really into this guy.
You know, did he have sage-like advice in the movie? Yes, never pay full price for late pizza. He taught me a lot of things in life about that.
It's a thing that I've carried with me for a long time now, especially now with Uber Eats.
That's right.
So yes, get your pizza sometime this calendar year.
That's right. As we get to the fourth issue, Donatello, he is basically imprisoned. He is beaten down. He's much smaller than all the other ones because basically there's, you know, as a mutant, he is left kind of out to not be in such great shape there. And he is not doing well without his buddies.
This one actually gave me, I don't remember the show Prison Break on Fox. Remember that show?
I do remember
it was one of my all-time favorite shows of all time. I've rewatched it like probably like 15, 20 times. Like I freaking love that show. Like I have the plans tattooed on me. But it gave me vibes of the season where they were in that prison like in the Middle East. And they were in that prison. It gave me that vibe of like, where like Michael has to fight now, you know? And so like, that was the vibe I kind of got out. I'm like, I pulled a little bit out of that.
Because eventually, he does have to fight. And he's not in great shape to do that at all, you know? And, you know, you look at themes of being an outcast and how they're treated and that kind of thing. And obviously, you know, we throw the word mutant around so casually, but not treated well at all. And
we don't mean what we say. I promise you. We don't mean what we say.
It's great book. This is actually a collected edition. You get that, you know, Amazon, your local comic store, if you don't want to buy the individual issue. This has 1 through 6, so it keeps going from there. But like I said, I really like the idea that you've got one consistent writer, Jason Aaron, and then different artists on every issue, which is also cool because it gives every issue its own kind of feeling and style within.
I hadn't read a comic book, honestly, up until this one. I hadn't probably read a comic book in like 30 years. Like it'd been that long. And it was so fun. It was so fun to like pick it up and read again. Cause like look, I mean, we read so much crap like throughout the day on the, you know, between Facebook or scrolling, but like this was cool. It's like I was telling Sandy when I came back in, because I went and sat outside and just was like, I'm disconnecting from the world. I need like an hour just to kind of go through these. Yep. And I just sat down, I had my cup of coffee, and I just started rattling through this thing. And I was like, dude, this is like really fun. I hadn't done this in so long, and it was like a nice little escape, and it was like nostalgic for me. I was expecting the behind the music voice to kind of pop in and be like, things were going well. Like that. Things were going well until a cold night in November of 1992.
That's right.
When the band's future was in jeopardy.
Right.
You know, like
the day the turtles died.
The day that this will be forever known as the day the turtles died. You know,
but I'm glad you said that. That was kind of my thought. And a big reason why I do this show, there's a lot of different reasons. I want to get to talk to radio people, but I treat it like Hot Ones, where you're basically, you're eating, but you're talking through stuff. But the reason why I wanted to put comics into it is exactly what you said. We're so inundated with just garbage all day long. Just
garbage in, garbage out.
Doom scrolling, whatever you call it. Everything just over on TV, internet, everything you could imagine. And you know what? During COVID, I got really back into collecting things. It's like when I'm at home, I'm buying baseball cards, things from my youth, comics, all these different things. And I started to like learn some what I call solo hobbies and things that I don't have to rely on anybody else for. And comics is a huge one for me in that category. And as I'm going through stuff, like, you know, what'd be really great is I'm not going to make every episode about, you know, Marvel or Batman, Superman. It's going to be I have a lot of like, horror, thriller, kind of other books out there, creepy things, Twilight Zone type things, because like movies or TV show, they're different genres. And so I thought, it'd be cool. Why don't I pick a person from radio and give them a book that kind of matches them a little bit? And knowing that you are the king of nostalgia, I mean, that's, everything.
Dude, it's funny because not to go back to therapy again, my therapist's like, you love to get nostalgic and talk about, I'm like, I just, like, nostalgia is a feeling, dude. Like, it's just like that when it gives you that good feeling, and like, that's what I like about it. It's like, I always remember the feeling I had. And like, this is like, for me, like, this was fun. Like, it was a nostalgic rundown, like thinking about watching the cartoons and watching all that stuff, and like made me start thinking about like the stuff I used to watch like on Saturday mornings, like, Pee-wee's Playhouse,
That's right.
and all that stuff.
It's something that from a marketing standpoint, we see it all the time, right? Every show is rebooted, every movie, that kind of thing. And what I like is you've always made that part of just your style of, radio primarily, but just, living. You're referencing things, Want Some Company, Rick, just one of the guys.
Want Some Company?
I mean, those are things that when you get a comic book, that's everybody knows. Side note of a side note here. How proud are you of William Zabka for having
I'm so happy.
You and I, 15 years ago, we would start to incorporate William Zabka in all kinds of did you know, not only Karate Kid, but he was the jerk in European Vacation. He was Aubrey's boyfriend, and he was and we're always talking
jerking
about
back
him.
to school, jerking Karate Kid. The thing is, and the thing is, he's actually a really great dude in real life. He's a really great dude, and I was just like, this is awesome. And I was just so happy to see it come back. And I think they did a really good job.
Especially the first couple. I watched
a little weird towards the end.
But early on, it was perfect because it was in a 2025 or whenever it came out, 2020, whatever it was, in an era where we got to watch what we say, we got to watch what we do, how we say to people. We're like, here's Johnny Lawrence. And he's going to say whatever he wants, act however he wants, and you're going to love him for it. And it was when I would tell people, what's Cobra Kai about? I'm like, well, the quick sentences, Johnny's the good guy and Daniel's kind of the bad guy was my quick, but just to remind them that, you've got these shows, and that's, talk about nostalgia. I mean, that became on purpose, a little hokey, a little cheesy, okay, you're going to have a whole fight in school. There's no teachers around to break up the fight. That's okay, because this is how it would have happened in the 80s, too.
Well, the thing is, too, is I think the show got weird on purpose when they when they brought Terry Silver in. That's when Karate Kid got bad, was when Terry, it got weird when Terry Silver got involved.
They brought Terry Quicksilver back. They brought in Karate's bad boy, Mike Barnes. They brought him back.
In Pat Morita's gravestone. They brought everything in. You know what I mean? They brought it all in.
Talk about bringing it. Also, Mr. Miyagi has got a bit of a strange past that we didn't know about.
I was expected to be a hookers and blow thing. I was it's oh my God, Mr. Miyagi. He's oh, this is
Mr. Miyagi, how'd you get all the hookers and blow? And he's beginner luck. I'll be beginner luck. Damn, right.
Beginner luck.
Beginner luck. I can do that. Am I okay to do the voice? If we're talking about
hooker with chopstick.
Right. If we're talking about ninjas, can we get a pass to do the voice for a little bit?
I think we do. I think we do. In this particular case, yes, because he's technically a sensei. There's karate involved, ninja. Yeah, so it all kind of it
makes
comes
sense.
Around in a circle. It starts to kind of work together. You know what I mean?
So these first 4 issues, a little bit of where are they now? Did you have a favorite either scene or panel or story or part of it, or even just kind of what you remember from it that you really enjoyed?
I really liked the Raphael episode, the comic itself, because I just I jived with it, and I think the other side too is the Donatello one kind of. Those two kind of worked together because it just reminded me of Prison Break, the show I liked so much. I'm like, oh, this is great. This reminded me of Prison Break. So
and fun visuals. He's just kind of chilling in his bunk. Content with being a badass. And it was cool to see him in this world. In this how would Raphael fare in prison?
The only thing that I think was missing in the Raphael comic strip was maybe like he's doing tattoos or, things like that, like or some tattoo, like maybe he has a sleeve now of tattoos or he's giving them, like just something to kind of add to it.
A little more prison-esque, or he's,
really kind of just, it's like the rug. It ties the room together.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
I mean, were you hoping for like a Raphael shower scene as well or no?
No, I wasn't hoping for that. I was just more like the tattoo part. And
Okay.
Or maybe like, I get your dessert for like a month for doing this tattoo, or, you give me some of that for the commissary, that type of thing.
I like you want to make it almost like a fun prison time, Hey, we're trading desserts. We're just giving, friendly little...
It's a prison sitcom. You know what I mean?
That's what we need as a prison sitcom.
Hey, everybody. Dude, I'm telling you right now, like Sneaky Pete tried, but they were too serious. You know what I mean?
There was
it was a little too serious, but it's like, it's like, give me something, a real, like, legit prison sitcom. Like, I want to talk about what's happening, like, 4 cells down. What's going on down there? Like, you're doing your thing here. It's your own world, but what about 4 cells down?
Weirdly, it's a prison cell about nothing, why do they give me the single serve? They know they're going to take the applesauce away from me. It's got the spoon in there.
What contraband did you flush today? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, that's what I want. You know what I mean? Like, give me that kind of fun, like we should start a prison sitcom. I tell you right now, it's a rocket to the top right there. That thing right there. It's what they call it in number 1 with a bullet, if you will.
And maybe number 1 with the shiv as well in prison.
Oh, yes. Yes. The sitcom that sticks it to you with laughs.
So, we cover a lot of different comics and topics on this show. If you were a superhero, Ryan, if you were okay, I've got powers. Maybe I'm a supervillain, in a previous episode, Chris became a supervillain. So what would be your powers? What would be your whole thing? And also when the movie comes out, who's going to play you?
Oh, shoot. Well, Michael Chiklis probably would play me.
The Commish. Yeah.
I mean, it looks just, everyone's like, oh my God, is that? Like my wife's watching Hubie Halloween. It's like, oh my God, is that you dressed as a priest for Halloween? I'm like,
and you're like, listen, of all the people, you could have given Dennis Franz. I'm going Michael Chiklis though. Yeah. What's funny is he was also, I believe, he was the Thing in one of the Fantastic Four movies, right?
He was definitely the Thing, and I think that as far as I think for me, I like the vibe of the new Superman, like his style. I like the vibe. He's got himself a dog.
Yep.
And he's got himself
Crypto,
a little bit of a little weird situation happening right there back at his. He's got those robots that are kind of like they're trying to come up with like their own personalities, but they're kind of weird. So it's kind of like it's a sitcom back at the Fortress of Solitude.
So basically, I'm like a comedic take on essentially a Man of Steel, indestructible, right? And you want to just be.
You know what? I would be the greatest American hero. Remember that show?
Oh, the show, yeah.
Where you couldn't figure out how to frickin' fly right and all that stuff.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air.
Yes, exactly. And then maybe with a little bit of Balky mixed in there, too.
Oh, like a little dance of joy when something goes right. When he does finally take flight. Like Cousin Letty, we do the dance of joy.
I still tell people about, there was a time that JP actually introduced me to, there was a game on the internet where it was Balky chasing his dreams. And finally, his dream came true if you got through all the way to 95% of the dream, but keep pushing Balky.
There was a time period of the internet before social media really took over when you can go to a random website, which is actually a game. It's a website, but also a game. And you are flying on the wings of a dream, like the song. And you're flapping, and it is Balky Bartakamus.
It was, I mean, like when you, like, I still tell people about that. And like the game's not available online. I've looked it up. So I'm like,
I've looked it up as well.
I need to pick me up. I need to pick me up. I need to chase my dream. And actually what's funny is now on my conference calls, when I enter, I always play the theme song from Perfect Strangers just to be funny. And they're like, oh God, Ryan's here. I'm like, I'm just chasing my dreams, guys.
Do you have like an America or Burst? So basically would you say you'd have like Superman-like abilities?
But just have no idea how to use them properly, Grace America. I can fly, but what the hell am I doing?
So it's going to be funny because you're going to watch people, you're going to fumble over things and all of that.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's going to be like the most. It's like Blankman meets Greatest American Hero.
Okay,
there you go. There you go. It's like, there you go. Which I do some voiceover work for Watch Mojo, and I just did. a top 10. They talked about Blankman.
Awesome.
And one of the top 10s, I was like, I'm a crime fighter.
That's right.
That's the way he says it. It's like a
Blankman
terrible
was
movie.
Damon Wayans?
Yes, a terrible movie, but it was Damon Wayans and David Allen Greer.
Yeah, who's hilarious.
And he's always great. And so like it was just one of those things like I was like, I'm a crime fighter. And you're like, it was just like it's a terrible, like I said, terrible movie.
Yep.
But the premise of my superpowers would lie somewhere between Blankman and Greatest American Hero.
I like it. That's
There you
perfect.
go.
Yeah. And it's going to be a must watch because you're going to watch, what can you get into this time,
It's like this guy, how the hell is he going to like snatch victory from the jaws of defeat by accident every time? It's like he saved them every time by accident.
Starring Michael Chiklis.
Starring Michael Chiklis, who, yes, would be very, very close similarities-wise to me. So
I think so, yeah. I like it.
So there you go, yeah.
We were talking earlier about all of the things you've done in radio. And
Yes.
you've done a lot. You've been involved in a lot of different things, got opportunities and all of that. Is there a celebrity that you interviewed or you talked to or you met that's like, oh my God, they're like the coolest ever? It was so awesome.
It's like for different reasons on certain ones. Like I really, really like my dream was always to interview Dennis Miller.
Okay.
And I got to interview Dennis Miller.
Oh,
and like,
wow. Okay.
It was everything. And it was like funny because we both have improv backgrounds. I did improv comedy when I was early, like when I was in college and stuff. So it was crazy how that interview flowed between the two of us, like how we were picking up each other's energy and moving it.
That's great.
And it was like, holy crap, like this guy, we're on the same plane.
Yeah.
And it was like, I made Dennis Miller laugh. Holy crap. I mean, so
Right.
like that was really cool. And like, he's actually like a really good dude. Like, and I
You don't
really,
hear much
really
about
enjoyed
him
that.
anymore. I don't know.
He keeps
if
a low profile on purpose.
I would
think.
imagine on purpose because he's probably like, I don't need the shit talking online or whatever. Because I mean, you can't. If you have an opinion about anything in this day and age, you get destroyed online.
Yeah, and like I've had a chance to really talk to and meet some really cool artists. I remember like in the country world, Luke Bryan. Actually, my sister was going through a breast cancer battle. And because he and I always had a funny thing. Like he would remember me, which I had no idea. Like, how the hell do you remember me? But every time he see me, like feel my butt, he's like, I always love feeling your butt, Ryan. Just messing around me all the time. But like he was in town here in Indy, and my sister was going through a breast cancer battle. He asked how my family was doing. Always asked about that stuff.
That's great. Yeah.
And I told him about what's going on with my sister. He's like, give me your phone, I'll call her.
Wow.
And she didn't answer when I called.
Yeah.
So he shot a video and then sent her the video.
Wow.
And then
That's so cool.
My sister goes, Luke Bryan cared about my boobies, and it was just like, so it was kind of funny, but like it was cool. Like, and like I've met a lot of different genres of music that were all just kind of really cool. Like my kids have been held by rock stars. Alice Cooper was always great to hang out with and meet. He was everything you thought he would be and some. I mean, he was everything that character was.
Talk to everybody, and he
would have to get pulled out of his. He'd have to get pulled out of his meet and greets, not us.
Right. He would have his handlers come out and be like, hey, Alice, we got to go. And he would want to talk about all the stories.
Oh yeah. And it was great. But like, I've met, like I said, I'm not trying to name drop or anything like that.
No, that's
like,
what this segment is.
I've met
for.
guys like Jared Leto. I've met him, and I've hung out with him. He's different. But he's Jared. It's kind of always the thing. It was like, it's Jared. But like I said, there's a lot of different artists that I can think of that were really cool that I've met in my career. I've always found that the country artists were always pretty genuine that I met. They were always very family oriented and very concerned about what it was that was going on in your world, and always were checking in on those things. I just think of like Lindsay L. I still keep in touch with. She's great. She now hosts Canada's Got Talent now, and she's great. Do you think
some of that comes from like country artists? Maybe I don't want to say respecting radio more, but being a little closer involved with how important it. I mean, not to say that they weren't sincere. They're not doing it because you're the guy on the radio. It's just more of a. No, I need to be in this world. And by being in that world, that also means you get connected to people too.
I think too, like it comes down to, I think partially too, if you think about how a lot of these guys were raised, I'm like, it's a more small, South Bible, very much a Bible country down there. Whereas a lot of these guys were raised, it's different, and then I've met a lot of Australians that are musicians that are artists. I freaking love the Australians. They're always great. Especially when you get them drunk enough to drink Fosters, and then they're like, well, maybe this isn't as bad as I thought it was. But you're too drunk to know that it really is bad. But it's I've got all kinds of stories to go throughout the years of just different times I've met artists and had cool. One of the coolest sit downs I think I've had, and like once again, it was one of those things where they had to tell him he had to be done. Was Zach Brown? I thought,
oh wow.
Zach Brown might be one of the coolest dudes to sit down and talk to for just, 5 minutes, but let alone I had an hour and a half with him.
Wow.
He was great. John McCain, when I was working in news, there was a time when
I think you told me the story where you like trying to interview him and someone put your arm down and he was like, no, get this guy in here. Right?
Let's talk etiquette real quick, shall we? So you kids that are out there trying to do the old the TV thing, you kids out there. So whenever you're in a press junket, right, and there's a bunch of cameras sitting around one person, the cameras go low. You put them low so they're not in someone else's shot. This kid from Western Illinois University, I'm name dropping. Get your kids together over there. He reached over the top.
Yeah.
And he had his stuff right in front of my camera for most of the interview. I actually kind of nudged his hand a little bit, to kind of get him to move it a tiny bit. And he just kind of went right back over. And
you just reached your arm over, plopped it in there?
He reached his arm right over everybody this and plopped it over. So then John McCain's answering a question. He goes, kid, what are you doing? These guys are all trying to get a soundbite. They have to be back by a certain time to get the soundbite, 5 o'clock. What are you doing? And the kid's like, he takes his hand, grabs it, turns his mic upside down, and then lowers it with everybody else's. And so we finished the press junket. I'm walking away, and I get tapped on my shoulder.
Yeah.
And this was probably 5. I was packing up my stuff, really, actually. It was right at the van and tapped my shoulder. I turn around. It's freaking John McCain.
Oh, man.
And he's like, hey, man, you were in the main line of that kid blocking your shot. And he goes, young guy, he's just trying to learn, hopefully learn. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, whatever. And he goes, you want 10 minutes? I'm like, no. I don't want 10 minutes, but no, we ended up talking for an hour.
Wow.
And it was funny because he's like, well, we have to get going. It's like, let me finish with this guy first. He goes, it's important. He goes, this is important to always, it's always important to finish your conversations with people so they don't feel like that you leave them hanging or that something else is more important than them at the moment. That's what he said to the guy. And so I was like, holy crap. So I got an hour.
And that's John a legit, this is who the guy really is.
Yeah. And the thing is look, no matter what side of the fence you stand on as far as politics go, and I'm not trying to get into politics at all.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, he was just one of those guys, I respect the crap out of him. He believed in what he believed in. He wasn't afraid to call out anybody, including his own party, on stuff that he thought was ridiculous. In fact, we could use a guy like that today.
I was about to say, we don't have a whole lot of that anymore. It's a little
we kind of have one going right now, which has been very humorous to watch. But it's just at the same time, like I said, it's just, you run across people in our business, and this, you cross paths with certain people, and they're like, this guy's a douche, or this guy's don't meet your heroes, right?
Yeah.
And so, but then you get to meet some of these people. Like my daughter, she got to hang out with Taylor Swift.
Wow.
And Taylor Swift was.
Who else could do that?
I've been dad of the year.
I was about to say, anything ups and downs you've gone through over the years, you are super dad, superhero, no matter what for that.
Yeah, Taylor was trying to because my daughter was dressed real cute that night. She was, she was what? I think she was she was third or fourth grade at the time. And Taylor was obsessed with my daughter. Wow. And so she's like, I'm taking her with me. And she kept leaving everybody else to come back to my daughter.
Oh,
and
awesome.
So and then she ended up grabbing Grace. She's like, do you want to go see what's under the stage and stuff, how we do all the changes and stuff? Grace really? And so she took her back there. And then I was realizing in a conversation later with another country artist, it was Runaway June, which is John Wayne's granddaughter is actually one of the singers. Jennifer Wayne, she's great. But she was saying, well, Taylor's lawyer, she probably could have got that done, taken the kid away. And I'm like, well, she would have had a much better life. She would have wanted for nothing, but it was cool. So
that's amazing. Yeah.
Like I said, you run across things. It's like I said, it's hard to pin down. Everybody's cool for different reasons. That's one of the cool things about this business. But I think for me, my favorite part has always been the people that I work with. I always think of guys, God rest his soul, Jim Lynam. Every day,
Yeah.
that guy crosses my mind every day. That was a terrible day in my career, and it still gets me sometimes. I'm trying not to.
Yeah, I only got to. So Jim was on 103.9 The Fox, and also, he was on Q101 in Chicago many years, and owner of a wrestling company as well. And I had maybe only one or two interactions with him because I think I was only just part-time at the moment, when I dropped down to that, and I met him, and I'm like, wow, what a solid dude. Like, he was telling me, he's like, hey, if you ever want to go to a show, let me know. I'll get you to meet everybody. I mean, I was just like, you just met me and you're already offering up your wrestling company for, and you obviously have to work with him on a daily basis, sure, it was amazing,
He, the guy had a heart of gold. It was, and I always say that, I used to tell everybody, like, I'm fat because my heart grows every time I meet somebody. That makes me fatter. So I'm just getting fat because my heart is swelled from all the great people I've met. And for me, in my career, it's been more about the people I've worked with and I've met and I've had a chance to work with in my career. Those are the things that I talk about more with anybody when they ever ask me about my career. Mm-hmm. I talk about the people I worked with more than I talk a lot of times. I mean, there'll be stories that people will ask and or something will trigger a story, but I always think about, like, I got stories for days about Tony Tarbox. Yeah, I mean, right. and he'll watch this, and I'm sure he'll chime in with something at some point in time. But, like, I got stories for days with Tony, and just the things with that guy, and stories with you, and stories with just working in that building, and Jack and everybody. Yeah. And then I've got stories from when I worked in Omaha and Milwaukee and Indianapolis. Those are the things, that the everyday things that you're working with these people and you're in the trenches with every day, like. Those are some of the best stories when some of, like, the for lack of a better term, the F-ups or things like that happen. But those are some of the best stories that kind of are from those moments and those people. Yeah. And so, like I said, I've always kind of found myself talking more about the people I worked with. Yeah. And, guys like Sherman and everybody else.
It reminds you of why you got into it. And while everybody else is at their 9 to 5 doing whatever, we're out there making those memories that you remember what happened on a random Tuesday 15 years ago, whereas the average person doesn't get that. And that's something that you'll always have. Whether your radio journey continues or not, you've done more than like 95% of people that have ever worked in this business.
Well, I appreciate you saying all the nice stuff you've said. Sometimes I have a hard time believing it. And it's funny because I would, not to go back to therapy again, but I was actually in a therapy session last week, and we kind of, she's like, you don't give yourself enough credit for things that you've done. And I go, sometimes when you're in the moment of it all, like, you don't think about it. Right. And I go, sometimes you just, like, you're in it every day and you're just doing it. So
are these the good old days? If I'm in it right now, how do I know these are the good old days?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, how do you identify those things when you're in it? Right. And so, I've started to really kind of unpack those things. Like, yeah, I did do a lot. I mean, if I think about it, like, my goal was always to be, on the air in, like, Chicago, whether it was, somewhere in Chicago, just be on the air in Chicago. I could, I grew up with my dad listening to Bob Collins on WGN.
Yeah. Right.
So I grew up with that.
Hit everywhere. And I was listening as a kid too. My dad would put on Steve and Gary in the car, and my mom would get mad at him for letting me hear the stuff that I shouldn't be hearing on the radio.
Oh, dude, I remember my dad to be shaving in his BVDs in the bathroom, and Bob Collins is playing, so, like, I remember that since I can remember things. And so, like, I always wanted to be on the radio. And so, like, my goal was always to get to Chicago. Spike O'Dell went to my high school. He was on WGN, did afternoons and mornings for a long time after Uncle Bobby passed away. God rest his soul. But it was just one of those things that, I always wanted to do that. And, like, I got to get there before I was even 30. Yeah. And so it's like, you start asking yourself, okay, well, now that I'm here,
now where do I go?
How do you raise the bar? Like, what is it? Because that was the thing that, like, for me, like, it was never that I had a bar. It was like, I was always, how do I challenge myself differently every day when I wake up in the morning? Like, what is it that's getting me up out of bed? What is it that's going to get me excited to keep going? And what is it that I'm trying to accomplish? Yeah. And so, like, it was those things that I was always thinking about every day. And so when you got to certain points in certain parts of your career, you were always kind of like, okay, like, I can't believe that I'm here and I've done this. Yeah. What do I do now? Like, where do I go now? And what's the next challenge?
Well, and
so like, let's go into country radio. And
the funny thing is, not everything has to be up. A lot of it is just, you've got so many different things and you've done a lot. So yeah, it wasn't just, You know, it's not just
challenge.
Something I was saying. It's the truth. I mean, you've been in 5 different markets at least, whatever, you know, it's like you've done all these different roles. You've done it all. And obviously I appreciate the opportunity you gave me, letting me shine a little bit, and just the cool stuff that you did, because you don't see that. Back then you didn't see that from program directors. And now, especially, you don't see that.
Well, I appreciate you thanking me on that, JP. But honestly, dude, like, you earned it. Like, you don't have to thank me for anything. Like, you earned those opportunities. Like, if anything, I would have been stupid to not give you those opportunities because you earned those, you know? So at the end of the day, like, and I told that to a lot of people that in my career, I'm like, don't thank me for something that you've earned. You know what I mean? Like, it's not me that's doing this for you. You've earned this. So
obviously you got to open the door, but someone's got to walk through it, you know? And so.
Exactly. And I think that at the end of the day, if you give people a chance to walk through the door, they're either they're gonna come running in like a sitcom, like Kramer,
right? Yeah,
like it's a disheveled mess,
right.
But they're gonna make an impact, and those are the people that you want.
If only we had his hair. If only.
Yeah, this wave by to me back in my 20s. It was early 20s. I was like,
I'm the same thing. I'm like, you know, I only have so many hats I can wear. Not the proverbial, like I wear different hats. I'm like Cubs, Bears, Bulls. I only have a certain amount of hats.
Yeah. I went to the dermatologist like 2 years ago just because like my doctor's like, just have him check your head since, you know, you're bald now. And I'm like, I've been bald for a while, but thank you for noticing just now. But he's like, check out your head just to make sure things are going okay up there. I'm like, well, should that be that? I don't know if that's a dermatologist thing, if that's more like a brain scan.
Right.
If it's just, is it still there? But no, like she's like, I think you're in your hat era now, Ryan. I think you're in your hat era. I'm like, oh, I am. So I have all kinds of different hats. I have my pool hat, which is the straw hat that you wear to the pool.
Yeah,
and everybody's like, oh, Ryan's wearing his fun hat. It's like, only wearing it because I burn.
That's right.
So
that's all right, though.
The best of us.
Well, you live and learn, and you've definitely done both of those. I love it.
Indeed, dude.
Awesome. Ryan, thanks for joining Comics.fm. Glad you enjoyed the nostalgia trip to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, of course. And,
this was great. This was absolutely great. So I just want to thank you for letting me be on this and just, even thinking of me to be on it, because it was this was fun. Like I said, I really enjoyed just being able to wax nostalgia with you a little bit, but also, talk some turtles, talk some comic books. Right. You actually made me read a comic book again.
I love it.
And I hadn't read one in a while. So.
I love it. Well, that's that's part of the goal, is just to kind of normalize it. And it ain't just for the nerds. We can all kind of enjoy something too.
Absolutely, brother. So thank you so much again. This was really cool. Really cool time out from the day for sure.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it, buddy.